needing to mind our own mind, needing to mind our hearts, needing to mind our souls. And if we don't do so, then we really aren't doing the right by people or by ourselves or by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
The second one is the narration is not only going through somewhere that, you know, not in our way. The second one is the narration is also less than other narration.
Right? Because I do think that if you're just going to speak to make a point, it may just be noise.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Liman Ihsan. Today we're having a special session. It is a roundtable discussion with amazing women from different parts of the world that are excelling in different fields of expertise, mashallah. And today I'm not alone. I'll be co-hosting it together with sister
Zeba.
Zeba Qureshi.
Yes.
Mashallah. So she's a senior actual marketer in the UK, and she's been working in the social media and the media world, mashallah. And of course, as a Muslim woman, she has a lot of insights also to add into our meaningful conversation. Yeah. So let me introduce our speakers. We got Dr. Rania Awaad. She's a professor at Stanford University in psychiatry. Then we got Dr. Sari Chairunnisa. She's the deputy CEO and the co-founder of Paragon Corp. We got Salwah Abdul Shukor, who is a lawyer at Zain & Co. and also a trustee in many charities, mashallah. And that's it. So let's get started. Zeba, what are we going to talk today about?
Okay, so you guys would have had so many various experiences working in various sectors.
Yes.
I'd like to start with you, I guess, Dr. Rania, in your work in the mental health space. I guess one thing that it's such a buzzword now, and there's so many buzzwords that are associated with mental health, and it's become quite mainstream. But I guess, in your opinion, we often hear that the mental health system is broken and it's fragmented. But in your opinion, where do you feel like, what does Islam have to teach about mental health, and what does a healing center space look like?
Oh, mashallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. You've asked the question right to my heart. Yes, mashallah. I have to say, as a practicing psychiatrist, someone who's in the field, the mental health system is in fact broken. Not just in the United States where I live, but everywhere. I would say there's just so many different needs for mental health, and not enough services that are really put forward in the meaningful kind of way that really would help and support all the people. I think we really felt this after the pandemic. I felt that it was always there, it was always brewing, but I think the lid was on. And the pandemic came and took the lid off of something that probably had been festering for some time. And then suddenly there was all this discussion around mental health in a way that we didn't hear before, in general media, but also specifically in the Muslim community. I started to hear this more. I certainly was invited in all these different spaces and places to speak about this topic. And I thought, what's happening? What's happening is, I think people finally understood or took the pulse on this issue, and took it a little bit more seriously. You asked about Islam. For me, I really believe that our deen has a very direct answer to this, because you see the life of the Prophet ﷺ himself, and he himself lived such a balanced life. There was a focus on his own care and then the care of the Ummah, right? Both are happening. You see that he takes pauses and he takes time, right, for himself, all while fully engaging with the society around him and the people around him. Sometimes when people and our leaders, they just give. We women give. And we don't pause to refill our cups. But then we end up pouring from this empty cup. And I believe Islam has these beautiful lessons about needing to mind our own mind, needing to mind our hearts, needing to mind our souls. And if we don't do so, then we really aren't doing the right by people or by ourselves or by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Sisters, what do you think is the state of Ummah right now? We're having so many global issues that are happening, right? And also, even the mental health is becoming something new, but it already it was a topic that was discussed at the times of Prophet ﷺ, because the journey of becoming a prophet and also preaching about the new religion isn't easy, obviously. I'm just curious, what do you think is the state of Ummah now? Where is the problem? Maybe each of you can share. Would like to start, Dr. Sari?
Please.
I think talking about the problem, every region has their own like unique or specific problem, but also there is maybe like the red line. But I think right now the problem is the narration of the Muslim that is not in our way, let's say. I mean, and then the second one is the narration is not only going through somewhere that you know not in our way, but second one is the narration is also less than other narration. So but yeah, but I'm thinking so that's why I appreciate your work in Luminisa and Dr. Rania and Salwah, because I think people need more narrative, right? More various,
More representation.
more good story, because I think at the end, Muslim or not, we want to being able to represent well, right? So that's why, because I come from the beauty industry and maybe Salwa also in the social media, at the end, it's about being represent, whether it's in the university, in the working place, you know. So yeah, I think narrative and representation right now is maybe our similar problem.
Yeah.
I love that idea. I love that concept of the narrative and how important it is.
Yeah.
And the narrative of those who are able to eloquently speak to our tradition, our heritage, and also in the modern day, which I think that everyone in this group, mashallah, it absolutely is what your stars are.
Salwa.
Oh, that's a big question. I think, sometimes when I see the youth of today, I think they have equipped us so much. And yet there is sometimes an absence of deen, and they almost think that they're in control. And I think that so much of that has got to do with the narrative that is immersive in their lives. And, really, I think that for us who can do something about it, it really is up to us, because it is in our lifetime that we need to really try and dignify and restore that deen back to, its rightful place. So I really do feel that, when I think about what really brings them peace, so much of it is in the deen, but it's not being directed that way. So they're looking at mindfulness, right? Intermittent fasting, superfoods. What is ethical funding? Every single part of that is already embedded in Islam, right? It's just not being, I guess, narrated.
Marketed?
Everything to do with, yes.
Speaking of branding.
Yes, Zeba, speaking of marketing, and I think this is definitely your field, right? And you as a Muslim woman, I believe that you work also mostly to kind of encourage Muslim voices to be on all of those platforms.
I was literally just going to ask you guys this question. I think obviously you guys come from various industries. How do you think, or do you think, in your opinion, respectively in law and fashion and media and psychology, do you think your voices are heard? Because obviously, and do we have ownership of that narrative, right? Because we talk about female empowerment and all of this sorts of stuff, and it's a very mainstream thing, right? But as Muslim women, we have our own nuances. We don't speak too loudly, don't speak too much, and don't do these things. But for example, in your various sectors, and especially in your work, doctor and stuff, it's very important that you have a voice because you have expert knowledge to share, and legal, and you being a CEO, founder, and stuff. But do you think that when you are given the mic, you're actually heard? How do you think your voices are actually fairly represented and actually valued for what you're saying?
Dr. Rania, I think you should take this one, because subhanAllah, you're the voice in both worlds. In the conventional, I'd say mainstream, right, as a university professor, and also in the Muslim dawah world, mashallah.
It's been an interesting journey. It's been a journey.
It's been a journey.
Mashallah. It's true. In the mainstream world, if you will, what they look at is credentials. Do you have the expertise to speak on what you are speaking about? When you take the mic, do you have the essentially they look at the pedigree, right? The training, the background, and so on. If you have this, the reality is people listen. And it's interesting. It is true that I'm in a male-dominated field, and mostly male-dominated, department and work that I do. However, it really is about excellence. And so when there is that sense of excellence, and I've climbed that ladder, do you know what I mean? I have found that your own excellence in work gives you that space and opening. Sometimes you do have to fight for it and be hurt and take up space, so to say. And that's not my nature. Me personally, that's not my nature. So it took a little bit of effort and work to do that. However, with practice and with mentorship, especially mentorship, it helps. And I have to tell you that mentorship comes from women specifically.
Oh, really?
Yes. My mentorship in terms of men have been excellent and very helpful. There's something different about mentorship with women, because it's almost like you're looking to see another role model, someone who looks like you, someone who represents like you.
For sure.
And that's so important.
Yeah.
You know?
Great.
Yeah.
Wow, this is really interesting. So in a mainstream world, obviously credentials matter. But how about the Islamic world, Dr. Rania? Because you're also Sheikha and you often talk on dawah events. Do you feel like your voice is heard in Islamic world?
It's a good question, and that too has been a journey. That too has been a journey. Look, I will tell you, for me personally, for years, my dawah, my teaching had only been with women. This is the tradition I was trained in, and the tradition my own teachers come from. But then at a certain point in the parallels that happened with my Sharia training and my medical training sort of happened parallel. And at a certain point, I started being asked to speak about mental health and in mixed settings. And so often when I do things related to dawah, I'm bringing in the psychological perspective because, and this is what I believe is true, Allahu A'lam, there are many shiyukh out there in the world. There are many male scholars. There's much that other men can benefit from. I don't know that they need my expertise per se. However, when I speak from the credentials of a medical doctor, of a psychiatrist, of a researcher, as someone at who's a PI, right, basically a director of my lab, and I'm speaking from that research perspective, I find that they listen because there's something there, because the Sharia credentials, they have to. So what's the distinction? Why me? Right? But there's something about the integration of the credentials that actually causes people to stop and to listen. And I think that's very important to remember here. We all have different expertise. We all come from different backgrounds. So if you were speaking from a marketing perspective, a legal perspective, a fashion and beauty and a media perspective, you have something they don't have. There's something to benefit from. Do you know what I mean? I think it's incredibly important that each brings their expertise.
Absolutely.
And Dr. Sari, I just remember how Paragon has been a pioneer in the pushing the image of the Muslim woman in the culture, right?
MashaAllah.
And subhanAllah, just 10 years ago, right? If we look back in Indonesia, seeing a hijabi woman was 3 out of 10, right?
Yeah.
And now it is?
Wow.
Yes,
9 out
I
of 10?
think I think it's above 7 out of 10, right?
Yeah, 7 out of 10,
MashaAllah.
mashallah. So can you tell me what was this, the turning point of where Paragon started to focus on that?
Yeah, because I think adding Dr. Rania's story, maybe Paragon also has similar. So let's say it's about credential, yes, because when we launched our halal beauty concept, it's 30 years ago. So we are really optimistic. Talking about insect concept, this is truly blue ocean, right? No one talking about halal beauty. People will talk about halal food. And then it doesn't work. Even we saw there is no beauty store that want to sell our product because what is halal? I prefer to sell haram. Haram product.
That's what I give it.
But then we realized that quality should come first. It's not that our product is bad, but let's say it's not the best one. It's not in that
It's not
multinational
associated,
league.
Not yet
And
at
then
that time.
and then we start improving our R&D, our concept and else. But parallelly, that's why I said narrative. And I think as a fitra, human wants to search for something good, right? So and then don't know why, but I think in 2008, 2007, people start searching for something like more modest, more about herself, because in 1980 and 90s, I don't know how is it in Malaysia, beauty narrative in Indonesia is very white, blonde
Yes.
woman.
Right.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then I think people start like, but it's not me. She is beautiful, but it is just not me. And then the momentum is met when we start building our credential. And then I think people searching something like
That
more
represents us.
represent herself, and so that's when our Wardah is growing, because when I told narrative, so we've been doing this for 30 years, right? And I think interestingly for the last 2 years, don't know how, outside world start, connect to us. Like I just went to the Global Beauty Forum, so we are like the only Southeast Asia company talking about halal beauty from the business of fashion, is from UK, right? And then on February there is like a Harvard Asia Business Congress also want us to talk about halal beauty. So I think, like you say also, there is many like new concepts that is actually already in
Yes.
Muslim, people talking about ethical beauty. Halal is halal and toib, right? You cannot say it's a halal when I do child labor, right? So I think people start to search about, what good for them, and then it's actually in the already in Muslim.
So kind of was hearing from two of you, not reaching Salwa yet. I can already hear strongly that unless you have credentials and you have numbers or branding, association with specific strong players that already exist globally, Muslim voices or women voices are not really being heard.
Mm.
I'm
Salwa, what do
not
you
sure. Well, I think to me in Malaysia and Indonesia and probably Nusantara, we grew up with fathers and brothers who we were equal in the household. There's no way they're not going to listen to us, right? So, and I think I also, in some ways, I'm fortunate that when I started in my career and much later in time, there was always a women empowerment, trying to get 30% on boards in Malaysia. So really, there was a push in a way that there was never before, right? So everything was about really trying to feature women in leadership. And so really now when I see women chair people, I don't even blink. It's very normal, right? But I do think that part of that is also how you play the board dynamics. I do think that, I mean, a lot of the times when I'm on the board, I'm very conscious that there are a lot of people older to me, senior in their technical expertise, and I do give them deference. I do give them that respect. So by the time when I do need to make a pivotal point, everyone is listening, and it is something that I know that they will hold and due consideration for, right? Because I do think that if you're just going to speak to make a point, it may just be noise, right? So you do have to be conscious and know that when the time comes and when it matters, you want everybody to know that you're there for a reason, and everyone is going to give you that space, and that you've earned that seat at the table. So actually, when I think about my first 2 years when I started working, it was in London. It was part of an accounting firm that didn't have any regard for individuality. Like, honestly, every single office, whether it was in London or KL, Jakarta, Africa, had the same identity because it was the one firm concept. But Alhamdulillah, the firm that I'm with now, the global firm, really gives you, they know that they chose you in that locality, in that country for a reason, right? So they're not going to second guess that you know better than them, right? So I do think all of these things together, when I go to the partnership meetings, I do know that my voice counts, and I do know that everyone there, but I also know that we have real friendships. It comes from, I suppose, the soft, gentle power is very important, because if you don't have that, then a lot of things become difficult. So that diplomacy that happens before you enter the boardroom, in spaces that you're networking, every single place that you're in, you have to be conscious that you are building your brand, and how are you going to be seen? When are you going to be heard? And when it does matter, would it count?
SubhanAllah. It reminds me of one of your lectures, actually, Dr. Rania. You were talking about women narrators of hadith, right?
Yes.
And then that there was practically no one who lied, right? And everything was
There
correct.
was no one.
There was no one.
To our knowledge.
Yeah.
None of the women
None of the women.
narrators were
Yeah.
known to fabricate hadith.
There was no one, but there were a lot of males that actually
That were
fabricated.
accused of such a thing,
They
yes.
were accused as well. Also, no one was accused, actually, I even remember. So not even
Yes.
like that was falsified, but
Yes,
even accused, subhanAllah. So which actually makes me think of like, you need to be an excellent woman. I feel like a woman who's been acknowledged, and she always needs to be excellent. She doesn't have a right to make a mistake. And unless, like you were saying, even Salwa, I need to make sure I respect, I think, and I'm already like confident in a way in this, whatever I offer to the table. And only then I kind of speak, right? And this is exactly the way I think as well. You know, unless I'm super confident, and I don't know, is it like, why would take it so seriously? Because in the case of our male compatriots, right, from our communities, right, they have more confidence to say things. Just recently, I met a friend of who is like around 25 years old, and he's already a CEO of a tech company. And in fact, when I was 25, I built a tech company too. But I was too shy to be a CEO. I left, in fact, by saying that I have to learn more. I thought I was not good enough. What is this, Doctor? I feel like, is it like a mental issue that
Aren't you glad that you waited?
Yeah. I am, actually.
I do think sometimes that self-filter is really a good filter, you know, because for excellence, right?
True. True.
You know, you want to build up something, and when you want to be somewhere visible, you would have already done all the mistakes, right? And you would have done something really worthwhile for you to be somewhere at the forefront.
So we're high integrity driven. Zeba, what do you think?
I was just going to ask, like, so just obviously capturing some of the points that you guys made, looking ahead and looking in the future, in all of your guys' opinion, what do you think, like, feminine leadership now looks like from an Islamic perspective? Like, you know, how, if you were to kind of tell the next gen, you know, thinking about leading in your fields, what kind of advice from your experiences, and we've spoken about soft power and, you know, being respectful and all these things, but from an Islamic feminine leadership perspective per se, in your opinion, what does that look like, or how can we carry ourselves, and, you know, moving forward from your learnings, what would you kind of say that you would share, basically?
Look,
everyone
Because it's a difficult question.
Everyone's looking at our mentor, right?
and I'm thinking about what I've learned from my mentors. And that's been so powerful to have, as I mentioned, woman mentors. It's been incredible, actually. The first thing they say, men and women, men or women, it's the same ruling in Islam. You know, the first thing we start with is intention.
Okay.
The niyyah. What is the intention behind what we're doing? What's the intention of stepping up into that leadership space? I'd love to teach this concept around advocacy that you hear directly, and many people don't talk about this, but it's so important. Actually, it's from Surah Yusuf, right? His own story, right? The story of Prophet Yusuf, alayhi salam, and how, you know, think about, you know, the whole journey of how he's taken, thrown into the well, he goes into, right, sold into slavery, essentially has to go to another country, eventually is in prison. So now the story is at the point where he's in prison. And he then tells his cellmate, remember me, please remember me, so I can go. When they need him, when the king needs a dream interpretation, now comes the story. When Sayyidina Yusuf interprets for the king the dream, he could have just left it at that. But what does he say? He literally advocates for himself. He says, put me as the person who is in charge of the storehouses. And you took somebody who's been incarcerated in prison, whose reputation had been marred wrongfully, who literally is asking, meaning the lowest of the low in this society, is asking to become the minister. Imagine. He says in the Quran, "Ij'alni ala khaza'in al-ard." Put me, and what an interesting request to ask of the king, right? And he gives it to him. He puts him, and then the scholars explain, if you're going to advocate and speak up and step up into something, you should make sure, what is your intention? And do you have the credentials? We've been talking about this. Sayyidina Yusuf knew he had what it took.
Yeah.
So he spoke up and he advocated for himself, and he went from literally prisoner, yes, to the minister, and saved all of Egypt. I mean, when you think about that, it's powerful. What does it mean to advocate? What does it mean to step up into leadership? What does it mean to lead with integrity? Right? It can't just be for fame and glory, and I want my picture here and my name set here, and none of this matters because you have to come from substance, right? And so I'll share this one thing, and I'd love to hear all of you share too. One of my mentors, when I was at Stanford, this is early on in my early years in training, she said to me, "You came to us with Islamic training, right? I came already with Islamic training. And you said you wanted to work with the Muslim community." I said, yes. She said, "Now I want you to incubate." I said, "What do you mean incubate?" And she said, "I want you to not do anything right now related to mental health. Until you incubate." And I was so, I'm here to do mental health with our community. I really want to, And she said, "Look, your community needs to trust you." And how does people trust one another? Khidmat, service. You have to roll up your sleeves and serve your community. Once you're a known face and you've built trust, the next thing you say, they'll listen to, but not before that. And you're going to bring something kind of different, kind of new mental health discussion to the Muslim community that wasn't ready to hear it yet, right? And so she said, you incubate. You make sure you have the credentials and the ability to that when you speak up on this topic, you've gained the trust, you've earned the trust, and you've now are able to speak from a place of actual knowledge and wisdom and credentials on something that's, well, at that point was still controversial, right? Do you see what I mean?
That is such priceless wisdom. Thank you. How about yourself?
Adding to Dr. Rania's story, I think what is what we see in Paragon, I think the woman leader has has strength for nurturing and caring, because how they see the team, I think is different, and that's what I learned also from my mother. So there's some story. So in 2017 we went to a family business education program in France. So there are some family, right? And so like in this world, most of the founder is men, right? So talking about succession, they're like, "No, I don't believe my son." And then his son will say like, "Why don't you believe me?" And like that. And then my mother just like, "Why are you fighting? I mean, Nia, what is your intention when you build this business? How come you don't trust your children, right? You are the one who." So I think nurturing and caring is like strength and uniqueness. But going back to narrative, because we went to the Al Mujadilah opening last year, right? So I'm really like, oh, I never heard about this surah, honestly, Al Mujadilah. So actually, the Quran also, I think, want to show us, or want to tell us, not only nurturing and caring, but women also have strength to advocate, right? I think Hawla is one of our favorite stories.
Absolutely. My favorite, one of my favorite Sahabiya.
We are losing that narrative, so it's like, woman only nurture and care, not strong enough. But Hawla is really strong. She has a very, it's not something that maybe in 2025 is not really common, right? Woman as something like that to the men's scholar, something like that.
Sure,
So
mashallah.
I think the strength and nurturing and caring, but also advocate is the strength.
Wow. What about you, Salwa?
Actually, all of the conversations have made me think of something my teacher once said, that to be of significance in our times, for a man or a woman, you've got to reclaim something that's not really part of your primal traits. So for a man, it's taken that you're going to be, I guess, dominant and influential and strong, but to really be of influence, you need to be gentle. And for women, because you're already inclusive and you care, what really will make that difference is if you take charge, But I tell my lawyers that actually, as a lawyer, I feel, what are you there for? You're always listening to people at their most vulnerable, when they have deepest problems and you have to solve it. So what is that? You have to be someone that people really implicitly trust, and I think that is the first trait of Rasulullah, right? He was someone that was trustworthy.
Yeah.
And if you are just that to begin with, and you want to actually be of service, those two combinations in itself will just make you a much better lawyer, regardless of the credentials of the next person. This commitment to service, just being able, and wanting to really, I always say that everyone comes to you with a problem and everyone can give a response, but are you giving a solution? You know, that's the difference of how you're excellent.
Amazing. Zeba, I'm thinking, you know, since we're representing each different countries, you know, so I'm from France, you're from the UK, we have the USA, we have Indonesia and Malaysia.
Yes.
And then it's like very diverse, right? In terms of the culture and the situation of what's happening to Ummah in each of those countries. SubhanAllah. So I think it would be like a closing statement in a way each of us could share what we wish for our Ummah in our country to be like in 10 and 100 years.
Oh, wow.
So, Dr. Sari, go ahead. Indonesia. I'm based in Indonesia, so I'm practically Indonesian too.
I think for me, personally, you know, there is, you know, right now, me personally, there are many like concerning news. Okay, maybe not really bad news, concerning news, but I think we have to go back to intention. So there is a, you know, Paul Pullman from UK. There is one when I had a discussion with him. One is still stuck in my mind. I think it's already in the Quran also. Like he said that you as a business leader, you should ask yourself, is this world a better place with your business on it? So I think if everybody, when they act and then asking that, there will be no corruption, right? There will be no harassment. There will be no war, right? Because coming back to intention, you know, we live in this world to make a better place in our own, you know, what we can do. So I think if everybody's thinking about that, it will be like a good place for us in 110 or 100 years. Yeah.
Inshallah. Wow. Who wants to go next? We do like Indonesia, Malaysia.
We'll end in Europe.
I think I live in a really blessed land. And I think the gift that I feel that every Malaysian should learn more of is gratitude. You know, we live really in a strip of land that is completely, you know, far from the earthquake, you know, fault line, which is just literally our strip, right? No typhoon, this blessed multicultural existence, and where we get to learn from each other, from the best from each other, right? And I do think that if everybody just really appreciated that, that so much of what the Quran says, we can live that. We can live that experience, being the middle nation, being somewhere that you can learn from each other. All of that is here. And I really hope that that manifests in how every Malaysian Muslim looks at ourselves, and hopefully bring that as the blessing to the land.
MashaAllah, yeah. Definitely. Dr. Rania.
Yeah,
this is...
Inshallah. We come to the United States. Inshallah. There's so much potential in the United States, and yet so much potential harm as well. I really feel and hope for our Ummah that there's the potential that I see is everywhere I travel. Right now I'm in the East, yes. That the East, for whatever reason, continues to look to the West. And and in doing so, we actually, as American Muslims, have incredible privilege, and we should name this privilege as privilege, to be able to say, if you have industry and you have education and you have power and you have the ability to actually bring something forward that's very special, very powerful. And the example I give, I was just speaking still of Islamic psychology in my field. I was just in Turkey just recently, and I gave this lecture, it's very honored. They said, you're the first person to speak in this university on Islam and psychology. I said, I'm in a Muslim country. What are you speaking about? What are you talking about? How? And they said, we don't have such a thing here.
Wow.
And they said, we wish we had this concept of Islamic psychology. I said, it came from you in the first place. SubhanAllah. But something about having, and this is what I mean by privilege, at Stanford University, to have Muslim mental health, Islamic psychology lab, the East is looking to the West going, if Stanford has it, I should do it too.
Yeah.
And now Turkey is talking about this. I thought, subhanAllah, it took us to come back as full circle. Subhanallah. Which is a kind of privilege, which means let's harness that and actually do good with it and be careful about potential harm, because it seems otherwise what we're exporting out to the world is all this nonsense that's not actually very useful at all. Whether it's fashion and beauty standards that are not ours as Muslims, whether it be something related to all the policy and laws and such that are detrimental to us, whether it's media, if I may, as well, all the forms of media, mashallah, that's exporting, topics and harm that is not actually very useful. But imagine if you harness it to good. And we have the potential, inshallah ta'ala.
I mean,
Zeba, do you want to?
I think in the UK, I concur with what you're saying in terms of privilege. But one thing I would love to see, probably in the next 10 years, is our sisters feeling safe. I think safe to advocate for themselves, to feel like they do have a voice and actually have that courage to speak up. I feel like sometimes we can take for granted that we're in the masses, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it comes with access or quote unquote power. And so I would love to see, we have so many amazing sisters doing amazing things, but there are so many examples that probably are really similar to yours, where they just, they're right there and then they step back. They have these world-changing concepts or ideas or businesses or thought leadership all stuck in their head, and if you're privy to it, you're like, subhanallah, this needs to be scaled, and they just don't quite find the courage or
I see what you mean.
to kind of share it. So I'd love to see more of that in the UK. I think, inshallah.
Now, when it comes to France, subhanallah, I was not born there, but I think I built myself as an adult there. So I pretty much kind of grew up there as a person, and I see so much potential in France, actually. Like the mainstream French culture, right? The pop culture generally has been kind of driving the world in a way, right? When it comes to many fields, right? And even Dr. Sari were mentioning you did your family business, right? Education there as well in France. So for me, I believe that Muslim community in France is like so amazing and talented. These are the people that are driven by excellence. They always had to prove themselves, just like in many other Muslims in Muslim minority countries. But what French Muslims unfortunately don't have in a massive way like the rest of the world has is the access to the global world through a language, which is an English language, right? And I see so many talented people that could teach and learn, but because of the language, they don't. And I feel like if the French Muslims would be present on a global stage, let's say, right, they would inspire millions of people.
Wow.
And both Muslims and non-Muslims, actually. And if you dig into the history, and this is actually not only about Muslims, this is also generally about the minorities there. Because if you dig into the history, subhanAllah, the revolution actually started from a black man. He was basically a person who was half black and half white, but he had a skin that was very dark. And because of that, Napoleon actually removed all the information about his existence, actually. But actually, he was a genius. He was friends with royalties. He was also creating music. He was creating laws and creating some kind of a way of an equal existence in the French society, which is celebrated nowadays. But there's no credentials under his name. So this just shows that in this country, a lot of people are thinking and they try to change to make the world a better place, the country a better place, right? But for that, you need an access, and you need also a platform. In order to go to a platform, you need global language that people understand, right? So, and just recently I went to panel back to France, and I see it is not the same as it was 10 years ago when I was just a student. Panel, so many things has changed, we have a lot of youth that speak very good English and French. So I guess in another 10 years, I feel like we will not think of France as like the most discriminated country, for Muslims. Inshallah, I feel like it will be an empowered Muslim community that will create solutions for both Muslims and non-Muslims in the country, and will contribute to a better image of France, and and hopefully continue a better legacy.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. MashaAllah, it was amazing speaking to all of you. I feel like, we can spend hours and hours,
Yes.
talking about our dreams and aspirations for the Ummah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of your work that you do. And make it easy and make you also connect and collaborate in the future to come up with amazing initiatives that we could celebrate all together, inshallah. I thank each one of you because I consider you my mentors, in at different fields, and I often jump on a call, or catch an event, right? Or send voice notes. So alhamdulillah, it's been very helpful to, I think it's a privilege for me as well and for Zeba as well, to interview you and actually know people like you that are the legacy makers, of the future of our Ummah, inshallah. And then you are guiding us and showcasing us how we should also be better and hopefully also impact the Ummah in a positive way.
Inshallah.
Thank you.
Inshallah.
Okay, we end the session.
Yes, of course.
Thank you so much, everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.